front of the most insidious of all, the Federal Reserve System, one of many of its progeny located throughout the United States.
We got to stop it!
I'd just like to recount what Senator Benton said about the second bank, which is just about central banking in general. And I have a short passage I'd like to read.
Americans, we're not criminals!
Exactly.
Take your camera off of us!
This really crystallizes why we're against central banking, why we're against particularly private central banking. Now, what Andrew Jackson had proposed was a treasury system, a treasury banking system, which would still be centralized in effect. It would have monetary control and stability, but it wouldn't be private. Now, this is why Senator Benton, at that time, was opposed to the renewal of the charter of the second bank. I object to the renewal of the charter of the Bank of the United States because I look upon the bank as an institution too great and too powerful to be tolerated in a government of free and equal laws. Its power is that of the purse, a power more potent than that of the sword. And this power it possesses to a degree and extent that will enable the bank to draw itself too much of the political power of this union and too much of the individual property of the citizens of these states. The money power of the bank is both direct and indirect. The direct power of the bank is now prodigious, and in the event of the renewal of the charter, must speedily become boundless and uncontrollable. The bank is now authorized to own effects, lands inclusive, including where we stand right now, to the amount of $50 million, and to the issue of notes to the amount of $35 million and more. This makes $90 million, and in addition to this vast sum, there is an opening for an unlimited increase, or there is in suspension in the charter to issue as many more notes as Congress by law may permit. This opens the door to boundless emissions, for what can be more unbound than the will and the pleasure of successive Congresses? The indirect power of the bank cannot be stated in figures, but it can be shown to be immense. In the first place, it has the keeping of the public monies, now amounting to $26 million per annual. The money's now amounting to $26 million out of the Post Office Department included, and the gratuitous use of undrawn balances large enough to constitute in themselves capital of the great state bank. In the next place, its promissory notes are receivable by law in purchase of all property owned by the United States and in payment of all debts due to them. And this may increase its power to the amount of annual revenues by creating a demand for its notes to that amount. In the third place, it wears the name of the United States. And this, added to all other powers, direct and indirect, makes this institution the uncontrollable monarch of the money system, of private individuals, many of them foreigners. By whom is all this power to be exercised? By a directory of 7, it may be, elected by the people or responsible to them? No. Where is it to be? Some of the states receiving the produce of them? None. No interest in the welfare of any of them. No commerce with the people, with branches in every state, and every branch subject to the secret and absolute orders of the Supreme Central Head, thus constituting a system of centralism, hostile to the federative principles of our government, of our union, encroaching upon the wealth and the power of the states, and organized upon the principle to give the highest effect to the greatest power. This mass power, thus concentrated, thus ramified, and thus directed, must necessarily become, under a prolonged existence, the absolute monopolist of the American money, the sole manufacturer of paper currency, and the sole authority to which the federal government, the state governments, the great cities and corporate bodies, merchants, traders, and every private citizen must of necessity apply for every loan which their